Hello, I'm Russell Haythorn with Denver 7. Welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our mission today is to present a candidate forum in anticipation of the general election coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates vying to represent constituents in Colorado's State House of Representatives from District 5. District 5 encompasses parts of North Central, Central, and South Central Denver. Our format is a pretty standard one. We will begin with opening statements that will be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by the organizers of this forum. Since we do have a time limit, we may not be able to get to all of the questions submitted, but all of the candidates will answer all of the questions we ask, and all of their responses will be timed. Our countdown timer is right out in front, easy for viewing. So let's begin by meeting the candidates vying to represent Colorado State House District 5 as your next state representative. The candidates are standing left to right facing the cameras in the order that their names will appear on the November ballot. So beginning to my right is Jonathan Woodley, and to my left is Alex Valdez. And finally, we have a third candidate on the ballot. His name is Joe Richardson. Joe was invited but decided not to attend. And a quick note to the candidates. On behalf of our viewers, we sincerely urge you to be honest, direct, and forthright with your answers to help the voters distinguish one candidate from another. We will begin with 1-minute opening statements from each candidate. We will proceed with in ballot order with these statements. So once again, Jonathan, you're up. We will take your opening statement. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Russell. It's a pleasure being here. And thank you, Denver Decides. I'm Jonathan Woodley, and I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. I stand for the flag, and I kneel before my God. For 7 years, I have faithfully served the residents of Colorado. I have a background, experience, and education to lead us forward in these most challenging times. While words matter, actions speak louder. For Denver to make change, it's necessary to drain the swamp of officials that have plagued this city for years. This November, we have an opportunity, an obligation to make a bold decision at the ballot box. My family means the world to me, and I feel many of yours do too. When I am elected, I vow to protect yours as I would my own. It would be a great honor to serve you in this capacity, and one that I will not take lightly. Thank you.
Jonathan, thanks for that opening statement. Alex Valdez, the incumbent, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, and thanks, Russell, and thanks to the League of Women Voters and Denver Decides for having this debate tonight. You know, it seems like so long ago that I stood before you asking for your trust and belief in me as a representative, and now that I've served 2 years, I can say that we've achieved some great things. From raising Colorado's minimum wage to ensuring that our environment is protected by passing Senate Bill 181 and 1260 to combat global climate change. In addition, this year we passed a landmark police reform bill that will bring the end to a lot of suffering that's been incurred by our community. I think that as we look forward, it's hard to believe that things are going to be okay. But the truth of the matter is that here we are. We find ourselves in the middle of a crisis, and now is the time for leadership. The kind of leadership that I am offering today is the kind that will continue to fight for what's next, to fight for you and to fight for our community, to ensure that we come back stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And now we will begin questioning the candidates. Our first question for the candidates will be a 1-minute answer from both of you. And Alex, since Jonathan got to deliver his opening statement first, we'll start with you. And here's the question. It could be said the highest concentration of homeless people are camping within the boundaries of District 5. What are your solutions to address the homeless issue in our city?
Well, thanks for the question, Russell. It's obviously a very, very deep concern of many people within House District 5, the homeless issue. And, the truth is that it's a very tough issue to solve because the solution to homelessness is more homes. And due to our state budgets being impacted by Tabor and city budgets being impacted by the need to keep up with many other things, including our education system, we just simply find ourselves in a hard place of how we're going to find ways to build that housing. So I believe that in response to homelessness, we're going to need to ask our federal delegation to help us to find funding. And if this election goes well, we're hopeful that the Department of Housing and Urban Development will help us to solve our problems. But it is a humanitarian crisis, it is a dignity crisis, and it is a health crisis that we all need to ensure that we are working together to solve.
Alex, thanks for that response. Jonathan, your turn to answer the first question.
Thank you, Russell. And look, Representative Valdez here says that the money isn't there. Every year for the last 10 years or so, they say the money isn't there. And they want to let you know that the money is in your pocket, and that's where they want to keep going. So in 2019, I ran for city council here in District 9 against Albus and Candy, and this was the same problem that was plaguing us. You're right. The homelessness issue is centrally located here. I'm calling out for all the districts to do their part, and that's pretty much what we have to do. One of my solutions was expanding the tiny home program. I think it was a great start, and I think it can be expanded. But right now, we're facing a problem with not in my backyard. Everybody wants to find a solution for homelessness, but they don't want to contribute to it. So the money is there, Russell, and we just need to get it where it needs to go.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your thoughtful response. On to the second question for both candidates. Why are you a member of your political party, and was there one compelling reason you joined? And Jonathan, we'll start with you.
Ever since I was 18 and legally allowed to vote, I've been a Republican. And that is because I believe in the values, the principles, and the morals. They aligned with what I believed at a young age. And it was not so much as how I was raised. These are things that I have experienced in my life. I believe in small, limited government. I believe in the spending to be of what you actually have, and not taking from someone else and just giving to someone else and saying that's altruism. I call that stealing. So the Republican Party for me is something I believe in, and I believe in the timeless principles. I believe in the party of Abraham Lincoln. I believe in the party of Ronald Reagan. And these are the individuals that drive our party. And those are the principles that I will maintain and push forward.
Jonathan, thank you. Alex, your turn to answer the question.
Thank you. I think that's a very important question. I'm a proud Democrat. I've been a proud Democrat my entire life. But I think the reason that really drove it home for me was when I realized at a young age that I was gay. And it was important to me to find place. The Democratic Party has stood for the values of championing the rights of people of color, LGBTQ people, women, and so many others in our society. And I think that that's why I'm never for a minute have I had to be ashamed to be a Democrat. I've never had to distance myself from anybody who carried that label, because we believe in inclusivity, equality, and justice for all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you both for sticking to the time limits we've set tonight. On to round three, and Alex, we'll begin with you. Obviously, as you guys both know, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. Please describe how the state of Colorado should deal with the impact of the pandemic on our state budget.
That's a great question. It's something that in the last session we had to deal with already, as we looked at forecasts that showed a declining tax revenue gathering, as well as increased strain through multiple job functions within our city and state going away and pushing people onto unemployment. I think we need to make sure that we stay focused on the essential services for people. That is for our seniors, that is for our disabled community, and those who need us the most. And obviously education is a part of that, because we need to ensure that our children aren't losing ground. We've already talked about the challenges facing our educational system, and now we need to ensure that we prioritize continuing making up the time that's been lost here. But more importantly, I think we need to, as a state government, ensure that we're doing everything we can, which it sometimes means providing assistance to the small businesses where we all work and into the neighborhoods where we all live. And I would add just one final point, that housing stability, which was a concern before COVID, it remains a concern now, and we need to ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep people housed.
Alex, thank you. And Jonathan, your turn to answer that question.
Now, look, Representative Valdez's party said just a few weeks ago that now is not the time to make cuts. Well, that seems to be the mantra of the Democrats. Democrats just love to spend, spend, spend. I do agree with them that we need to keep the essentials, and that's what we should have been doing all along, which is why we need to protect Tabor. Now, I do want to go back to some comments that Representative Valdez made on his last question and let him know that my mom is a very proud Republican. She's gay. She's remarried. And her wife, my stepmother, is a person of color. My father is an immigrant. My sister-in-law is South Korean. So if you want to play identity politics, we can do this all day, but I figured we can move on to the next question, Russell.
Jonathan, thank you. And now let's continue with our questions for the candidates vying for State House of Representatives, the seat from District 5. And Jonathan, we'll start with you. What kinds of policies, if any, will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our community?
Well, I believe that we need to reform. We definitely need to reform policies within the police department, within prison reform. Absolutely 100%. My focus typically would be in prison reform. I definitely want to have a heavy hand on those who commit violent crimes, right? Now, for those crimes that are not violent against another individual, I do want to keep them out of the jail. But when I say that, I mean restitution like no other. Make it an incentivize crimes on property, on stealing and things, nonviolent crimes. Definitely want to make it a restitution thing, to make it to where they wouldn't want to commit those crimes. So I definitely would have a heavy hand on criminal activity, but I would do it in a fair way, 100%.
Jonathan, thanks for your response. Alex, there are some demonstrations happening right outside our door at this very moment. How would you pursue and promote racial and social justice?
It's a great question. And yes, there are people out there who are angry. And I join them in being angry at the continued injustice that is plaguing this nation through the rampant killings of people of color by police officers. That said, I know we've taken steps already. We passed a landmark bill, Senate Bill 217, just a few months ago that will help us to deal with those issues here in Colorado. And we did that working with police departments and with DAs to make sure that that's happening. But there's another kind of side of justice that this district elected me to see through, and that is environmental justice. House District 5 is home to one of the most polluted zip codes in the United States. Those people also deserve justice. So as we look at criminal justice, and as we look at all the different forms of justice that we talk about, environmental justice is right up there. People deserve good air to breathe, people deserve clean water to drink, and people deserve to live in a place that won't make them sick. So I will be working on issues that help to clean up our polluted areas of our district and to reduce pollution for everybody in the state of Colorado, as well as continuing the fight for justice and equality for people of color.
Alex, thanks for your response. And a reminder to our viewers, these questions were submitted by our sponsors here at Denver Decides. And Alex, you'll go next in round 5, I believe. This is on gun violence. What steps, if any, should be taken to curb gun violence in Denver and our communities?
Yeah, it's a tough one. We have seen a spike in gun violence starting with the beginning of COVID that has just really taken hold in our community. And, we can take small steps that we haven't already taken to ensure that gun safety is prioritized. I personally believe in an assault weapons ban. However, I do believe that that's probably a bridge too far in Colorado right now. That said, safe storage, ensuring that we're doing everything we can to keep guns out of people's hands who don't deserve them, is going to be top priority for us. There are so many different opportunities that we have by just looking into people's past to ensure that they're the type of people that should be and could be responsible gun owners. So there's a lot that we can do just to get there, and then look beyond that at what in the future we can do to prevent gun violence.
Thank you, Alex. And Jonathan, your turn. What can our community do to prevent gun violence?
Russell, I will let you know that I am a proud owner of firearms, legal owner of that. What can we do? Well, I'll tell you this much, we don't need more gun control laws. What we need is better education in the House. And it's an inconvenient truth, and it might upset some people or offend, but we need better education in the household. The idea to take a weapon of any kind and assault somebody else, to me, that's a mental health issue. And I just want to talk to Alex real quick. You mentioned gun crimes. Yes, they have gone up in Denver quite a bit and in Colorado. But this hasn't just been this year. It's just been magnified this year. This has been happening over and over and over again. This has been a problem. So I also want to talk about violence on women, violence on children, children on children, people of color against people of color. So the violence itself in Denver has exploded, and I think that starts in the household, and people deserve to feel safe on the streets, no doubt.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for this healthy debate, and we're moving on now. Our next round is what we call the lightning round. We'll have some fun here. Our candidates will be asked to answer questions that I read with a simple yes, no, or pass answer. It goes quickly, so listen closely. And remember, your answers can only be yes, no, or pass. We will go left to right again, based on how the viewer is looking at their monitor right now. So even though Jonathan's on my right, he's on the viewer's left. So Jonathan, we'll start with you. How do you plan, and this first set of questions you can actually answer for or against. How do you plan to vote on the following ballot issues this year? Prop 118, paid medical and family leave.
On 118, no.
4.
Prop 116, decreasing the state income rate. And Alex, we'll start with you.
Against.
4.
Prop 115, abortion ban after 22 weeks. Jonathan.
4.
Absolutely against.
Thank you both. Amendment B, repealing the Gallagher Amendment. Alex.
I support.
Against.
Thank you, guys. And now we'll move on to yes and no answers, or pass. For this election, will you use the U.S. Postal Service to mail your ballot? Jonathan.
No.
Alex.
Yes.
Great. Marijuana has been legal in Colorado for nearly 8 years. Have you personally consumed some of the products available in our state? Alex.
Yes.
Jonathan.
No.
Thank you, guys. House members are paid a salary of just over $40,000 per year. Alex is familiar with that salary. Jonathan, you're not yet. Was the salary and benefits what attracted you to run for this office?
No. In fact, I'd decrease it.
Alex.
No, the salary was not the reason I ran.
Do you currently own or do you plan to buy an electric car? Alex.
I do currently own an electric car.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Great. Should state legislators work at the Capitol longer than 5 or 6 months? Jonathan.
Yes.
Alex.
No.
These forums will be on replay through Election Day. For future viewing audiences, we are recording this in late September. Do you think kids should be in school buildings in Denver right now? Alex.
That's up to the teachers.
Yes.
Jonathan. Thank you. Do you support Citizens United that states businesses are people? Jonathan.
I'll pass. I need to.
Alex.
Absolutely not.
Thank you both. Have you recently done any volunteer work in your neighborhood or elsewhere in our beautiful city? Alex.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I figured. Should state legislators work at the well, we already had that question. I'll move on. Do you currently own, or, well, I guess we're done with the lightning round. I'm going back through the questions I've already asked you guys. So thank you very much. Well, I do have one more here. I knew I had one more.
Uh-oh.
Did you attend or participate in any of the organized demonstrations or events in downtown Denver in late May or early June? Or for that matter, the ones that are happening right now? Jonathan.
Can you clarify your question, please?
Yes. Did you participate in any of the demonstrations that are happening this political year,
Yes.
regardless of what they're related to?
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. All right, guys. That completes the lightning round. Way to go. For the next round of questioning, this is round 8. It's going to be up to each of you to ask questions of each other. So I hope you're prepared. Each of you will pick an opponent. In this case, there's only one other gentleman here this evening, so you can ask him a question. And we will start this Q&A rotation with Jonathan. Jonathan, go ahead and ask a question of Alex.
Okay, Representative Valdez. You are on the House Energy and Environment Committee, correct? You also have a solar panel company. Now, Colorado is a leader in the United States for oil and gas, and in keeping the United States energy independent, do you feel that there is an ethics conflict there at all?
Alex.
Thank you for the question, Jonathan. Absolutely not. I considered that when I ran for office, and it was brought to my attention that it takes subject matter experts to make law and policy that's going to benefit those classes of people. So for the same reason we have teachers down at the Capitol on the Education Committee making education policy, we also have people who are environmentalists and business people within the environmental side of things creating law in those areas. But we definitely are very careful, and we make sure that we work with people to ensure that we're benefiting the entire class of renewable energy.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you, Jonathan, for your question. Representative, now it's your turn to ask Jonathan a question.
Well, thank you. And Jonathan, so we talked a little bit earlier about party, and we brought up identity politics, and it's very interesting to me. House District 5, as you may know, is a very diverse district, many Latinos, African Americans, and immigrants of all kinds. The Republican Party is currently led by a person who is an abject racist and is pushing forth policies of that nature, anti-immigrant, locking children in cages. And so I'm just asking, how would the people of House District 5 be brought to comfort with voting for somebody who aligns themselves with that sort of policy?
Alex, could you be specific on who you're referring to?
Donald Trump.
Jonathan.
So let's fact check real quick. Locking people in cages, you do know that was Obama's administration, right? They did start that? Are you aware of that or no?
I asked you the question.
I'm asking you back.
Jonathan, I appreciate
okay,
that.
got
but
you.
We'd
I
like you to answer the question.
I apologize. Okay, so I support Donald J. Trump absolutely 100% in the presidency of the United States, and I do wish him another 4 years. I feel that your question is 100% misleading, and by calling the president of the United States a racist, right, without any facts, there's literally no way I can give you an objective answer to what you just asked. So,
Jonathan, we appreciate your response. And now you gentlemen will be allowed to ask one more question of each other. So, Alex, we'll start with you because Jonathan got to ask the first question, and then Jonathan will end with you. Alex, if you'd like to ask Jonathan one more question.
Absolutely. So right now, a lot of people are concerned that the tyranny of the minority has taken over our country. And given the unfortunate death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg just last week, and Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate Majority Leader for the Republican Party, and his absolute decree that he would not at any time hold a vote on a Supreme Court nominee during the final year before a presidential election. I'm wondering, do you support the change and the hypocrisy of Mitch McConnell to now appoint and hold a vote on a Supreme Court justice, even though the people of America have a choice to make on who they'd like to be the person to choose that person?
Jonathan.
So my answer to you, Alex, is not specifically on Mitch McConnell. It's on the Supreme Court vacancy. It's a vacant seat, and it needs to be filled, plain and simple. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Jonathan. And now it's your turn. You can ask Representative Valdez another question of your choice.
Okay. Well, Representative Valdez wants to talk about national politics. I want to talk about Colorado, and specifically here in Denver. Now, I can stand here proud and say that I support the men and women of law enforcement. Do you support elected officials like Candy C. DeBaca and Tay Anderson and their stance on abolishing the police here, overthrowing systems of government, destroying public and private property, and inciting violence? Because you've been very quiet on the situation at hand for the last few months.
Alex.
Well, thanks for the question. I do not support the abolishing of the police. The police do some great work, and I feel like we've already taken legislative action to create some reforms there, and I think that those are going to make a great deal of difference here in Colorado. As far as my support of an individual policymaker or politician, I mean, I support the values of progress, and I understand the anger that those folks that you named are conveying. While we all have different ways of going about getting to change, I'm not going to stand here and judge them for the way that they've gone about theirs. I also would say I don't believe that they are inciting violence or doing violence, and that's where I'll stand on that.
Alex, we appreciate your answers. Jonathan, we appreciate your answers, and we really appreciate the respectful debate here tonight. We now move from our Q&A segments to our closing statements for both of you gentlemen. Each of you will have 1 minute to deliver your closing statements, and we will reverse the order of opening statements. So I believe I began with Jonathan. Representative Valdez, your closing statement.
Well, thank you again. This has been a very fruitful debate about the issues that face the people of House District 5. And so, I just want to start again by thanking you for the opportunity to serve. We find ourselves at a really tumultuous time in our history. As a district, we've seen many of our restaurants and businesses close. We've seen so much change happen in such a short amount of time. And my pledge to you is that as we return to work, I'm going to be laser focused on what it takes to get our district back on its feet. My opponent here talked about keeping it local, and that's exactly what we need to do now. We need to focus on policies that are going to get us back on our feet, keep us in our homes, and ensure that as we come away from COVID, that we come away better, cleaner, and with better opportunities than we had before. I look forward to being a champion of equality over at the State House and to being a champion of the things that you believe in, because I believe when we work together, we are amazing people and we have the best district in the entire state, and I'll say that knowing full well that it's true. Thank you again, and I ask for your vote. Alex Valdez, thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much. And Jonathan, your turn, your closing statement.
Thank you. We have come to a point in Denver's history where we have lost our identity. When I moved here 20 years ago, Denver was a best-kept secret. There was a thriving cultural scene, countless historic neighborhoods, and diversity in thought and innovation. With many different backgrounds, people would come to Denver and be accepted for who they were, not what they were. There are times in life when we as individuals forget who we are, and Denver is no different. Let us break the chains of government dependency and choose freedom. Let us be the once proud city that was inclusive for all. Let us rid ourselves of this state of elected officials hanging on the coattails of the governor, so that we don't have to say, "Thank you, Governor, may I have another." Together, we can make a change to build our lives the way we see fit, to be free, to be who we are. Together, we can live in unity, and together, we can make Denver, Colorado great again.
Gentlemen, thank you both for this debate. We are out of time, and thank you for joining us. We'd also like to thank our Denver Decides partners. And remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd. So get out there, make your voice heard, and vote. For complete election information, go to denverdecides.org. I'm Russell Haythorn with Denver 7. Thank you for joining us.